Jake had always been good at staying invisible. In the crowded halls of his middle school in Brooklyn, he kept his head down, blending into the flow of students as they moved between classes. But no matter how hard he tried, Jake's size made it impossible to go unnoticed. At 14 years old, he was taller and heavier than most of his classmates, a fact that made him an easy target. "Hey, watch out, big guy!" One of the boys from his math class sneered as Jake accidentally brushed past him in the hallway. A ripple of laughter followed the comment, and Jake's cheeks burned. He mumbled an apology and hurried to his locker, clutching the straps of his backpack as if it might shield him from the stares. Jake's days followed a predictable routine. Survive school without drawing too much attention, then rush home to the safety of his room. There, he would sink into his gaming chair and lose himself in the virtual worlds of his favorite video games, where no one cared about his appearance or how he moved. But even those escapes felt hollow lately. At home, his mother's concern was a constant presence. "Jake, honey, have you thought about joining a club? Or maybe going for a run?" she asked one evening as they sat at the kitchen table. Jake poked at the spaghetti on his plate, avoiding her gaze. "I'm fine, Mom," he muttered, though the weight of her worry hung in the air. She sighed, clearly unsure of how to help, but didn't press him further. Jake wished she wouldn't bring it up at all. He already knew what she was thinking. He thought it about himself every time he caught his reflection in a store window or heard the snickers of his classmates. The tipping point came on an otherwise unremarkable Tuesday. Jake was sitting in the cafeteria, trying to enjoy a sandwich, when a group of boys from his history class passed by his table. "Hey, Jake, you're sitting here all by yourself," one of them jeered. "Guess that's because the table can barely hold you." The group erupted in laughter as Jake's face turned bright red. He didn't respond. He never did. Instead, he crumpled up the rest of his sandwich, dumped it in the trash, and walked out of the cafeteria with his head down. When the final bell rang that day, Jake didn't head straight home like usual. The humiliation of the cafeteria incident still stung, and he couldn't face the solitude of his room. Instead, he wandered through the neighborhood, letting the rhythm of the bustling streets distract him from his thoughts. Brooklyn was alive with energy. Kids playing on the sidewalks, the honk of car horns, and the chatter of families outside corner stores. As he turned a corner, Jake's eyes were drawn to a nearby basketball court. A group of teenagers was playing a pickup game, their sneakers squeaking against the asphalt as they passed the ball and shouted instructions. Jake lingered at the edge of the court, watching from a distance. There was something mesmerizing about the fluidity of their movements, the way the ball seemed to dance between their hands before swishing through the hoop. After a while, most of the players left, leaving only one boy behind. He was dribbling the ball casually, practicing his shots. Jake recognized him, Lucas, a kid from the neighborhood who was always hanging out around the court. Lucas spotted Jake and waved. "Hey, you want to play?" Lucas called out, jogging over to where Jake stood. Jake shook his head quickly. No, I'm just watching," he said, his voice barely audible. Lucas tilted his head, studying Jake for a moment. "You should try it. You're tall. Bet you'd be great under the hoop." Jake laughed nervously. "Yeah, I don't think so. I've never played before." Lucas grinned, spinning the ball on his finger. "So what? Everyone's got to start somewhere. Come on, I'll show you." Before Jake could protest, Lucas tossed him the ball. It hit Jake's chest with more force than he expected, and he fumbled it awkwardly before managing to hold on. "See? Not so hard," Lucas said with a laugh. "Now try shooting." Jake hesitated, feeling self-conscious as he dribbled the ball a few times. His movements were clumsy, and the ball seemed to have a mind of its own. But when he finally threw it toward the hoop, it bounced off the backboard and through the net. "Hey, nice shot." Lucas cheered, clapping. A small spark of pride flickered in Jake's chest. He couldn't remember the last time someone had complimented him on anything, let alone something physical. "That was lucky," he said, though he couldn't hide the faint smile on his face. "Nah, that was skill," Lucas replied. "You should come back tomorrow. We'll practice more." Jake didn't commit to anything, but as he walked home that evening, he felt lighter than he had in weeks. For the first time in a long time, he had something to look forward to. The next day, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the basketball court. The memory of Lucas's encouragement and the faint pride he had felt after making that shot lingered in his mind. It was a strange feeling, something new. He hadn't told his mom about it, partly because he wasn't sure if he was going back. But when school ended and he found himself walking toward the court instead of heading straight home, he realized he had already made up his mind. When he arrived, the court was almost empty except for Lucas, who was shooting hoops by himself. The sound of the ball bouncing echoed in the cool afternoon air. Lucas noticed Jake and waved him over with a big grin. "Hey, you came back." "I knew you would," Lucas said, tossing the ball toward Jake. Jake caught it awkwardly. "Yeah, I guess I just wanted to try again," he mumbled. Lucas clapped him on the back. "That's the spirit. Let's get started. We'll work on some basics first." For the next hour, Lucas showed Jake how to dribble, pass, and shoot. Jake felt clumsy and uncoordinated, his feet too slow and his movements too heavy. The ball seemed to have a mind of its own, slipping from his hands or bouncing off the rim. But every time he got frustrated, Lucas was there with a word of encouragement. "Don't worry about it, man," Lucas said after Jake missed yet another shot. "It's all about practice. You've got the height and the strength. The rest will come with time." Jake nodded, wiping the sweat from his brow. His arms ached, and his legs felt like jelly, but for once, the pain didn't bother him. It felt earned. By the end of the afternoon, Jake was exhausted but strangely satisfied. As he sat on the edge of the court, gulping water from a bottle Lucas had brought, he couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. He wasn't good yet, but he had shown up, and that was something. "You did great today," Lucas said, sitting down beside him. "I can tell you've got potential. If you keep coming back, you'll see how much better you can get." Jake hesitated. "You really think so? I mean, I've never been good at sports." Lucas grinned. "Everyone starts somewhere. And trust me, you got something a lot of people don't have, determination. You showed up. That's the hardest part." Jake didn't know what to say. No one had ever talked to him like this before, as if he was capable of more than he believed. He felt a flicker of hope, a tiny ember he wasn't ready to extinguish just yet. Over the next few days, Jake began to fall into a routine. School was still a challenge, and the taunts from his classmates hadn't stopped. But now he had something to look forward to. Each afternoon, he would head to the court, where Lucas was always waiting with a basketball and a wide smile. The practices weren't easy. Jake's body protested every step, every jump, every shot. He was slower than Lucas and often felt like he was holding him back. But Lucas never showed any impatience. He taught Jake how to position himself under the hoop, how to use his size to his advantage, and how to stay focused even when he felt like giving up. One afternoon, after Jake finally managed to make 3 consecutive shots, Lucas threw his hands up in celebration. "See? I told you. You're getting better already." Jake couldn't hide his grin. The progress was small, but it was real. For the first time, he started to believe that maybe Lucas was right. Maybe he could be good at this. That evening, Jake's mom noticed a change. "You seem happier," she said as they sat down for dinner. Jake shrugged, trying to play it cool. "I've been playing basketball after school. Just, trying it out." Her eyes widened in surprise, but she smiled warmly. "That's great, Jake. I'm proud of you." Jake looked down at his plate, hiding the blush that crept into his cheeks. He wasn't used to hearing those words, but they filled him with a quiet pride he didn't know he needed. As he lay in bed that night, his muscles sore but his heart light, Jake thought about how much had changed in just a few days. It wasn't just the basketball. It was the way he felt about himself. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't just surviving. He was moving forward. Jake's new routine brought a mix of challenges and rewards. Every afternoon after school, he'd head to the court, where Lucas was waiting with drills, encouragement, and an infectious energy that kept Jake coming back, even on the tough days. But as rewarding as it was to feel himself getting stronger, the grind was far from easy. The first week of consistent practice left Jake's muscles screaming in protest. His legs felt like lead every time he walked up the stairs at school, and his arms ached from the endless dribbling and shooting. On top of that, the taunts from his classmates hadn't let up. If anything, some of them seemed even more relentless now that Jake was making an effort to change. Basketball? Really? One of the boys in his math class sneered during lunch. Don't you have to, move to play that game? Jake clenched his fists under the table, his appetite disappearing. He wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he focused on the one thing that had kept him going, the court. Whatever happened at school, he could always count on the court to be a place where he was more than just a target. One afternoon, as Jake struggled through a particularly intense set of drills, Lucas clapped his hands to get his attention. "All right, take 5, Lucas said, tossing him a water bottle. Jake collapsed onto the bench, gulping the water like it was the best thing he'd ever tasted. "I feel like I'm dying," Jake said between breaths, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. Lucas laughed. "That's how you know you're getting better. No pain, no gain, right?" Jake rolled his eyes but couldn't help but smile. "Easy for you to say. You're not the one dragging around all this extra weight." Lucas sat down next to him, his expression turning serious. "Hey, you're out here doing it. Most people would have quit by now. You've got heart, Jake, and that's what matters." Jake looked down at his shoes, his cheeks flushing. He wasn't used to compliments, especially not ones that felt genuine. "Thanks," he muttered. "Don't thank me yet," Lucas said, standing and grabbing the ball. "Break's over. Let's see that hook shot again." As the weeks passed, Jake started to notice changes, not just in his body, but in the way he felt about himself. His shots were becoming more accurate, his movements more fluid. He could run up and down the court without feeling like his lungs were on fire. And while he still had a long way to go, he began to believe that Lucas might be right. He had potential. But not everything came easily. One evening, as Jake and Lucas were wrapping up their practice, a man in his late 30s approached the court. He was tall and lean, with a whistle hanging around his neck and a clipboard in his hand. "You boys have been putting in some work," the man said, his eyes scanning the court. "I'm Coach Rivera. I run the community basketball program here. Ever think about joining a team?" Jake froze, his heart pounding. A team? Him. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. "Yeah, I've seen you out here a lot," the coach continued, looking directly at Jake. "You've got good size, and I can see you've been improving. We could use someone like you." Jake stammered, unsure of how to respond. "I don't know. I've never played on a team before." "That's okay," Coach Rivera said with a reassuring smile. "We'll teach you everything you need to know. Think about it. Tryouts are next week." As the coach walked away, Jake turned to Lucas, his nerves written all over his face. "A team? Do you really think I could do that?" Lucas grinned, clapping him on the shoulder. "Are you kidding? You'd kill it. This is your chance, man. You've already put in the work. Now it's time to show everyone what you've got." Jake swallowed hard, the idea swirling in his mind. Could he really do it? The old doubts crept in, but they were quieter now, drowned out by the memory of every shot he'd made and every step he'd taken on the court. For the first time, the idea of stepping out of his comfort zone didn't feel impossible. It felt exciting. That night, as Jake lay in bed, he stared at the ceiling, a mix of nerves and anticipation keeping him wide awake. He didn't know what would happen at the tryouts, but he knew one thing for sure. He was ready to find out. The morning of the tryouts, Jake could barely eat his breakfast. His stomach churned with a mix of excitement and dread as he sat at the kitchen table, staring at the bowl of cereal in front of him. His mom watched him carefully, her concern evident. "You're nervous," she said gently. "That's a good thing, you know. It means you care." Jake gave her a small smile, but didn't respond. He wasn't sure how to explain the swirling thoughts in his head. The fear of failing, of embarrassing himself, of proving all the kids at school right. Still, he knew he couldn't back out now. By the time he arrived at the gym, the space was already buzzing with energy. A group of boys his age were warming up on the court, dribbling and passing the ball with ease. Jake hesitated at the door, suddenly feeling out of place. What was he doing here? "Hey, you made it!" Lucas's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. He turned to see his friend jogging toward him, a wide grin on his face. "Come on, let's get you warmed up." Jake nodded, grateful for Lucas's presence. Together, they joined the others on the court, where Coach Rivera was gathering the group. The coach blew his whistle sharply, silencing the chatter. "All right, listen up," Coach Rivera barked. "Today is about effort and teamwork. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for heart. Now, split into teams, and let's see what you've got." The first few drills were a blur for Jake. His nerves made him clumsy, and he fumbled the ball more times than he cared to admit. He could feel the eyes of the other players on him, and the familiar burn of embarrassment crept into his cheeks. "Shake it off, Jake," Lucas called from across the court. "You've got this." Jake took a deep breath, trying to push past the noise in his head. He focused on the ball, on the rhythm of his dribbling, on the sound of his sneakers squeaking against the floor. Gradually, he found his footing. His passes became sharper, his rebounds more confident. By the time the scrimmage games began, he was starting to feel like he belonged. During one of the scrimmages, Jake found himself under the hoop, surrounded by defenders. A teammate passed him the ball, and for a moment, everything slowed down. He could hear Lucas's voice in his head. "Use your size. Dominate the paint." Jake planted his feet, pivoted, and shot the ball. It bounced off the backboard and into the net. The sound of it swishing through the hoop was like music to his ears. "Nice shot," Coach Rivera yelled from the sidelines. Jake's chest swelled with pride as he jogged back on defense. For the first time, he wasn't just a kid trying to keep up. He was part of the game. At the end of the tryouts, Coach Rivera called the group together. "Good work out there, everyone. I'll be posting the roster tomorrow, so check back then. Remember, this isn't just about skill. It's about effort and attitude. See you all soon." As the players began to disperse, Jake wiped the sweat from his brow, his heart still racing. Lucas came up beside him, clapping a hand on his shoulder. "You killed it out there, man," Lucas said. "I told you, you've got this." Jake grinned, the weight of his earlier nerves lifting. "Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you." Lucas shrugged, his smile never wavering. "That's what teammates are for." That night, Jake lay in bed, replaying the day in his mind. He didn't know if he'd make the team, but for the first time, it didn't matter as much. He had shown up, given his best, and proven to himself that he could do more than he ever thought possible. Whatever happened next, he knew he was ready for it. The morning of the tryouts, Jake could barely eat his breakfast. His stomach churned with a mix of excitement and dread as he sat at the kitchen table, staring at the bowl of cereal in front of him. His mom watched him carefully, her concern evident. "You're nervous," she said gently. "That's a good thing, you know. It means you care." Jake gave her a small smile, but didn't respond. He wasn't sure how to explain the swirling thoughts in his head. The fear of failing, of embarrassing himself, of proving all the kids at school right. Still, he knew he couldn't back out now. By the time he arrived at the gym, the space was already buzzing with energy. A group of boys his age were warming up on the court, dribbling and passing the ball with ease. Jake hesitated at the door, suddenly feeling out of place. What was he doing here? "Hey, you made it!" Lucas's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. He turned to see his friend jogging toward him, a wide grin on his face. "Come on, let's get you warmed up." Jake nodded, grateful for Lucas's presence. Together, they joined the others on the court, where Coach Rivera was gathering the group. The coach blew his whistle sharply, silencing the chatter. "All right, listen up," Coach Rivera barked. "Today is about effort and teamwork. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for heart. Now, split into teams, and let's see what you've got." The first few drills were a blur for Jake. His nerves made him clumsy, and he fumbled the ball more times than he cared to admit. He could feel the eyes of the other players on him, and the familiar burn of embarrassment crept into his cheeks. "Shake it off, Jake," Lucas called from across the court. "You've got this." Jake took a deep breath, trying to push past the noise in his head. He focused on the ball, on the rhythm of his dribbling, on the sound of his sneakers squeaking against the floor. Gradually, he found his footing. His passes became sharper, his rebounds more confident. By the time the scrimmage games began, he was starting to feel like he belonged. During one of the scrimmages, Jake found himself under the hoop, surrounded by defenders. A teammate passed him the ball, and for a moment, everything slowed down. He could hear Lucas's voice in his head. "Use your size. Dominate the paint." Jake planted his feet, pivoted, and shot the ball. It bounced off the backboard and into the net. The sound of it swishing through the hoop was like music to his ears. "Nice shot," Coach Rivera yelled from the sidelines. Jake's chest swelled with pride as he jogged back on defense. For the first time, he wasn't just a kid trying to keep up. He was part of the game. At the end of the tryouts, Coach Rivera called the group together. "Good work out there, everyone. I'll be posting the roster tomorrow, so check back then. Remember, this isn't just about skill. It's about effort and attitude. See you all soon." As the players began to disperse, Jake wiped the sweat from his brow, his heart still racing. Lucas came up beside him, clapping a hand on his shoulder. "You killed it out there, man," Lucas said. "I told you, you've got this." Jake grinned, the weight of his earlier nerves lifting. "Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you." Lucas shrugged, his smile never wavering. "That's what teammates are for." That night, Jake lay in bed, replaying the day in his mind. He didn't know if he'd make the team, but for the first time, it didn't matter as much. He had shown up, given his best, and proven to himself that he could do more than he ever thought possible. Whatever happened next, he knew he was ready for it. Months after his first game, Jake had settled into a rhythm. Basketball was no longer just an activity. It had become a cornerstone of his life. Practices were still grueling. Games were still nerve-wracking, but now he faced each challenge with a confidence he had never known before. The court, once an intimidating and unfamiliar place, now felt like home. Jake's transformation wasn't just physical, though the changes in his body were undeniable. He had shed weight, but more importantly, he had gained strength and agility. Yet, the biggest change was in how he saw himself. The shy, self-conscious kid who had once avoided eye contact in the hallways was gone. In his place was someone who stood taller, who spoke with assurance, and who didn't shy away from new challenges. At school, the bullying had almost completely stopped. Even the kids who used to make fun of him seemed to look at him differently now. Jake wasn't just a kid they picked on. He was Jake Harrison, the basketball player. But more than their approval, what mattered to Jake was how he felt about himself. One crisp Saturday morning, Jake found himself back at the neighborhood court where it had all started. The place was quiet, the early sun casting long shadows across the asphalt. He dribbled a ball slowly, his mind wandering back to that first day when Lucas had invited him to play. Still working on that hook shot, Jake turned to see Lucas walking onto the court, carrying his own basketball. "Always," Jake replied with a grin. "What about you? Still trying to look cool when you shoot threes?" Lucas laughed, tossing his ball to Jake. "I don't need to try. It just happens." The two friends began to play, their movements instinctive and synchronized. They didn't need to talk much. The rhythm of the game spoke for them. After a while, they sat on the bench, catching their breath. "You've come a long way, Jake," Lucas said, leaning back and looking up at the sky. "Remember when you couldn't even make it up the court without tripping over your own feet?" Jake chuckled. "I try not to, but yeah, I remember." He paused, his expression turning thoughtful. I don't think I ever really thanked you for pushing me to try, for believing in me when I didn't." Lucas shrugged, but his smile was genuine. "That's what friends do. Besides, you did all the hard work. I just gave you a nudge." That afternoon, Jake had a game at the community center. The gym was packed with familiar faces, his mom, Lucas, Coach Rivera, and even a few of his teachers from school. Jake stood with his team during the national anthem, his heart swelling with pride. He had earned his place here, not just on the court, but in his own life. The game was intense, with both teams fighting for every point. Jake played his heart out, grabbing rebounds, setting screens, and making key plays. In the final moments of the game, with the score tied, Jake found himself with the ball. He glanced at Lucas, who gave him a quick nod from the bench. Jake took a deep breath, dribbled past his defender, and went for the shot. The ball soared through the air, hitting the backboard and swishing cleanly through the net. The crowd erupted in cheers as the buzzer sounded. Jake's team had won. As his teammates rushed to celebrate, Jake looked around the gym, his chest heaving with exertion. His mom was clapping with tears in her eyes. Coach Rivera was grinning proudly, and Lucas was whooping from the sidelines. Jake felt a wave of emotion crash over him. This was more than just a victory on the court. It was a testament to how far he had come. Years later, Jake stood in front of a group of young kids at the same community center where he had played his first game. He was now a senior in high school, a standout player on his school's varsity team, and a mentor to kids who were just starting their own journeys. "You don't have to be the best when you start," Jake told them, holding a basketball under his arm. "You just have to show up, work hard, and believe in yourself. The rest will come." As the kids ran onto the court to begin their drills, Jake smiled. He spotted Lucas leaning against the wall, watching with a knowing grin. "Still giving motivational speeches, huh?" Lucas teased as Jake walked over. "Someone's got to do it," Jake replied, his smile widening. Together, they watched the kids play, their laughter and energy filling the gym. Jake thought about how much his life had changed since that day Lucas had handed him a basketball and told him to give it a shot. A simple invitation had set him on a path he never could have imagined. Under the same bright lights of the court, Jake saw a future full of possibilities, and he knew with absolute certainty that he was ready for whatever came next.